I'm wondering as well, as I said earlier, it feels like this current government's not even like leading up to the election. There was code words and there was dog whistles and over various topics. It sounds like now they're not even hiding it. You know, Brooke Van Velden said in the article we looked at yesterday, she just said straight out, we've got to sort out what's best for business. You know, she just put it out there. Like, and obviously you hear a lot of people, and I think about, you know, Marama Davison or Chloe or when Jacinda was in talking about the workers. There's this, sorry, this is a bit of a rant first and I'll ask my question. There's this place that the left has lost, and I've said this several times on the show, that when the right comes out and says, you know, the CEOs don't like labels, the CEOs don't like left, the left needs to go, yeah, that's right, that's fine. The right, you guys can have the CEOs and we'll continue to be the parties of the workers on the ground. And what I was wondering from you is, when we hear the right, when we hear this current government just overtly saying we're going to do what's best for business, and you use that as sort of a foundation for what they're going to do to the Holiday Act, then that terrifies me, because it's good to say, let's sort out the Holiday Act. I mean, you know, this Easter Sunday thing, you know, yeah, okay, let's have that conversation. But when you then realise that the foundation, the place they're starting their conversation is what's best for business, that fills me with dread and fear. What do you guys in the union actually think about when you hear that? And do you agree that they're just basically trying to figure out what's best for business?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's pretty terrifying, really, because what we've seen already is, you know, a really significant erosion of workers' rights. And there's only more to come, right? And I think that they will become emboldened over time because they're passing all of this legislation under urgency and getting away with it. You know, we don't have a culture in New Zealand of, like, I don't know, in Australia one time, you know, everyone just like hung some like bag of onions from the doorknob or something, and then Kevin Rudd was no longer PM or something like that. Which you've got to admire, right? You know,
They do things differently over there. Yeah.
It can go both ways, obviously, but we have to kind of be brave sometimes and like put our foot down on things. France knows how to do it.
There is something, man, as Pat said at the top, as when we started all this, I mean, there are some changes that could be made to certain parts of, I mean, like I say, as a contractor, and certainly I'm thinking on behalf of small and medium-sized businesses, I mean, there is a lot of red tape involved around things like the Holidays Act, for example. But they've sort of, I mean, Brooke Van Velden's, her comments have kind of left it ambiguous at this stage. But I mean, do you have any hope that that's where this might go, or are you thinking this is going to be in favor of the business, of big business, I should say, specifically?
Jeremy, I think what I hear you asking is will this be a fair negotiation between business and worker, or will the government just back business full stop?
Or even actually a fair negotiation between business and small to medium-sized employers. I mean, there is a bit of a balancing act there, but do you see any evidence that that's going to be the case?
No, and
simple. Yeah, we go. We're done.
Thanks for coming, Anita. That's great.
There was a massive amount of work done around this because, and so the trigger for it was, there was this point, I think it might have been like 2013 or 2014 or something, when we started realizing that everyone was calculating holiday pay incorrectly. So there's this really annoying thing called relevant daily pay, which is quite a complicated calculation. And the kind of intent of it is that if a worker is off on leave, they should get paid what they would have been paid if they had worked that day. So if they normally work 12 hours a day, their employer can't turn around and be like, I'm paying you the standard like 8-hour day because you're on leave. No, you've got to pay them what they would get otherwise. Otherwise, they're like financially disadvantaged by that. But what it did do was create a lot of problems. And partly it was like because people didn't understand how to do it. And the other part of it was actually that we were just using all of this like Australian payroll software that wasn't properly programmed.
Yeah, I remember that.
In New Zealand with our laws. And it was really funny because it was to the point where like even the union that I was working for way back then had to back pay me because they had calculated my holidays incorrectly. So no one was spared, right? And it wasn't this controversial thing where like the left was trying to do one thing and the right was trying to do another thing about it. There was actually consensus that like the legislation wasn't working quite clearly and it needed to be fixed. So there was like this working party under Labour. They came up with like a whole raft of things that they were going to do. It was all looking really promising. And then it sort of sounded like National was going to come in and be like, well, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like the work's been done, let's just implement it. But based on what Brooke Van Velden presented a couple of days ago to Business New Zealand, it doesn't look like that's the case anymore. She's sort of saying like, I'll have a look at what they've come up with and then we'll do some of it and not other parts of it. So I have no doubt that some of the kind of more beneficial stuff that I have heard about coming out of that working group is not going to be implemented by this government.